Hello, guys and gals, and this is part 5 of the Provensen book of fairy tales. It is a compilation of stories and art by Alice and Martin Provensen, and I do want to point out that the Provensens did actually do all the art in this book. It isn't just a compilation of art from other people; it is their art, which is really awesome. And in the last one, we read. It was Feather O' My Wing. Feather O' My Wing by Seamus McManus. But anyways, this is a book that's copyright 1971. And we are ready for The Seven Simons by Ruth Manning-Ssnders. Once upon a time, there was a great emperor who felt himself to be so clever and so handsome that no one in the whole world could he find. So handsome that nowhere in the world could he find a wife worthy of him. This vexed him sorely, and he became irritable and moppish. So one day, as he sat in his palace and looked out on the sea, he saw a great ship coming to the harbor, and in the ship were merchants, widely traveled men who had seen all the wonders of the world. The emperor sent for the merchants and said to them, "Look on me, my friends, you who are so widely traveled and have seen all the wonders of the world. You have observed, of course, that I am exceedingly handsome, and I assure you that I am exceedingly clever. Now tell me, have you ever in all your travels met with a princess so very clever and so very beautiful that I need not be ashamed to take her for my wife?" "No, no, no," the merchant said. "Never have they met such a princess." The emperor was pleased with this answer, and not pleased. It flattered his vanity, and yet he owed it to his people to marry someone. First he smiled, then he frowned, then his frown made the merchants tremble. So then the oldest of the merchants said, "My liege, I have heard, but I have not seen." Said the emperor, "What have you heard?" "I have heard that across 7 times 7 seas, in the island of Busan, there dwells a mighty king. This king has a daughter whose beauty outshines the sun, and who is so clever that the wisest philosophers seem but prattling infants in her presence. But it would take the swiftest ship in the world 10 years to reach that island, and so, my emperor, the princess is no bride for you." "And pray, why not?" snapped the emperor. "Consider, my liege, 10 years to reach an island, 10 years to return, 20 years before the bride could arrive here. Would she not have grown old in the meantime? And though her wit might yet sparkle, her beauty would have dimmed." Yes, that is so. I see your point," said the emperor, and he dismissed the merchant, and went on being irritable and moppish. So then, to divert him, his courtiers arranged a hunting party. Yoinks! So off they all go. Huntsmen blowing their horns, falconers with hawks on wrists, hounds baying, horses galloping, pinions waving, the emperor charging ahead on a magnificent stallion, cupbearers and butlers bringing up the rear with a bouncing, floundering wagon load with all good things to eat and drink. At noonday, the party halted for lunch under a green hedge. Before them, as far as the eye could see, stretched a great field of ripe maize. The maize swayed and glittered in the sun and wind as if the whole of the great field was a sheet of glancing gold. The emperor gazed at the field and said, "If every field in my kingdom were as well dug and planted as this field, my kingdom would be rich indeed, and as my people and all my people well fed. Go, someone, and find out to whom the field belongs to." Off galloped a squire to do the emperor's bidding. Soon he came to a spick and span farmhouse. On a bench by the door, of the farmhouse sat 7 peasants in red shirts, munching rye bread and drinking water. Strong, handsome fellows, all of them, and so exactly alike that there was no telling one from the other. Said the squire, "To whom does the field of gold maize belong to?" And the 7 peasants answered, "It belongs to us." "And who are you?" "We are the emperor's laborers." The squire rode back and told the emperor, and the emperor ordered the 7 peasants to be brought before him. Said the emperor, "Who are you, and what are your names?" And the eldest peasant answered, "We, O emperor, are your laborers, sons of one father and mother, and at our christenings each of us was given the same name, Simon. Our father taught us to till the earth from which all wealth springs. He also taught each one of us a trade, and such proficiency in that trade that no man else can equal." "Pooh," said the emperor, who thought that he himself could excel at all things. "What are these marvelous trades your father taught you?" The first Simon said, "My trade, O emperor, is that of a swift builder. In less than no time I can build you a white pillar that will reach as high as the nearest star." "That would be something worth looking at," said the emperor. "And you, second Simon, what is your trade?" "Such a simple one, O emperor, that it is scarce worth mentioning. I am a swift climber. When my brother has built that pillar, I can run up it and see what is happening all over the world." "And your trade, Simon the third?" I, my emperor, am a swift boat builder. 1, 2, 3, and my boat is made. But my boat, though small and plain, and not fit for the emperor's majesty, has this merit: what to other ships is a year's voyage, my boat makes in a day, and a 10-year voyage for other ships is but a week's voyage for mine. "And you, Simon the fourth?" "Oh, my emperor, my trade is a mere nothing. Should my brother build you a ship, I will sail it, and should an enemy pursue us, I have but to take the prow of the ship in my right hand, and it will sink to the bottom of the sea." "A fine performance to drown all aboard," said the emperor. "Nay, not so," said the fourth Simon. "When the enemy has sailed away, I will put my left hand on the prow and draw the ship up again, none the worse for its ducking. "You astonish me," said the emperor. "And what can the fifth Simon do?" "I, my liege, am but a smith. I can build you a smithy and make you a crossbow, whose bolts hits whatever the eye sees, whether far or near, whether in air or on land." "I should like to possess such a bow," said the emperor. "And your trade, Simon the sixth?" "Sire, my trade is but a little thing. Whatever my brother's bolts hits, I can run and catch, whether on the highest mountain, or in the thickest forest, or in the depths of the sea, whether by day or in the blackest of night." "Well, well," said the emperor, "if all is as you say, you are a set of fine fellows, a set of clever fellows. And you, Simon the seventh, lurking here behind your brothers and smiling to yourself, what trade has your father taught you?" "My emperor, he has taught me nothing, for nothing can I learn. My trade, such as it is, I was born with, nor can it properly be called trade, since I do not practice it. For in your kingdom, the penalty for practicing such a trade as mine is death. I am a master thief. No bolts, no bars, nor doors of iron can stay me from possessing myself of aught I fancy. Were it but a gold pen, or the whole wealth of your majesty's kingdom, all is mine should I desire it. Nor can bloodhounds track me down, nor any of your officers discover the secret place where I would hide what I have stolen." "You have courage, my friend, to tell me this to my face," said the emperor. If I did but believe what you were saying, it would go hard with you." "You do not believe me, then?" "Nay, not I." "Then tell me, sire, where is your majesty's wallet? Where Where it should be, said the emperor. Here in my belt. The emperor put his hand to his belt. What was this? The wallet was gone. And the seventh Simon laughed and drew the wallet from his own sleeve. The emperor's men raised a shout and would have seized the seventh Simon and hurried him off to prison, but the emperor said, Nay, let him be. I see I am not after all the cleverest man on earth, though I may be the handsomest. Come, my 7 worthy Simons, follow me. I am eager for you to display your talents. So off went the 7 Simons with the emperor till they came to a wide plain that bordered on the sea, and there the emperor halted. Now, he said, let me see you prove your handiwork. So the first Simon produced stones out of nowhere and built his great white pillar that raised its head up and up and up till it was lost in the dazzling sky. And the second Simon ran up the pillar and gazed over the earth. And when he came back down again, he told the emperor of all that was happening in every part of the world, whether on sea or land. Then the third Simon stretched out his arms once, twice, thrice, and there was his ship, floating on the sea. And the fourth Simon stepped into the ship, seized the prow with his right hand, and vanished with the ship to the bottom of the sea. Not a trace of the ship to be seen, and lo, it was floating on the surface again, drawn up by the fourth Simon's left hand. And after that, the fifth Simon built his forge and hammered out his iron and fashioned his magic crossbow. And the emperor said, Far, far away I see a speck in the sky. I think it must be an eagle flying towards the sun. What think you? With your crossbow, will your crossbow bring it down? The fifth Simon smiled, raised the bow, took aim, let fly his arrow. The speck in the sky began rapidly to fall, and as it was falling, the sixth Simon took a dish and sped over the earth so swiftly that he seemed to fly. He was gone. He was back again. He had caught the eagle in his dish before it touched the ground, and here he had brought it to the emperor. The emperor was so amused and delighted that he had forgotten all about his need to find a wife who was worthy of him, but now he remembered again. Remembered also what the merchants had told him of the wonderful princess in the island of Busan. And he said to the second Simon, Up with you once more to the top of the pillar, look over the 7 times 7 seas, and give me news of the island of Busan, and of its king, and of its princess, who I am told is beautiful enough and clever enough to be my wife. So the second Simon ran up the pillar, gazed, listened, and came sliding down again. Sire, he said, I have seen the island of Busan. I have seen the king. I have seen the princess. The king is full of pride. He sits on his throne and declares that no man on earth is handsome enough or clever enough for his lovely daughter, and he will give her to none, and that he will declare war on whomever dares to ask for her hand. Then tell me, asked the emperor, is the princess truly beautiful? Has the king a very large army? Is the island very far away? And the second Simon answered, The princess shines like the sun, and all the stars of heaven seem to sparkle in her eyes. The king's armed men are more in number than the sands of the sea. As to the island, it would take a vessel 10 years in fair weather to sail there. The emperor stamped his foot and said, I am determined to marry that princess. And he hurried into his palace and summoned his counselors. Forgetting how clever he was, he irritably asked their advice. Have none of you blockheads any idea how I can win the princess? said he. But none of them had. Then the third Simon stepped forward and said, Pardon a mere clodhopper for offering you advice, my liege. You wish to go to the island of Busan? What can be easier? In my ship you can get there in a week. Only ask your counselors to advise you what you shall do when you arrive. For it seems to me that if you are able to fight, you cannot hope to win against so powerful an army. Well, blockheads, and what do you advise? Asked the emperor. But the counselors were silent. They had no advice to give, and the emperor stormed at them in his rage and disappointment. But then the seventh Simon stepped forward and said, I, who have nothing in your august sight, may I have leave to speak? Yes, yes, speak, speak, if you have anything sensible to say, snapped the emperor. Then let me go in your brother's Then let me go in your brother's ship and steal the princess for you. Can you do it? Cried the emperor. Why not? Said the seventh Simon. Nothing is easier. Let my brother's ship be laden with rich stuff such as women love, with brocades and velvets, with shimmering silks and satins, and also with a goodly supply of costly jewels, bracelets, diadems, brooches, and neck ornaments. Let my 4 middle brothers travel with me, and let the eldest 2 stay with you as hostages. So hostages. Okay. The emperor heartily ordered everything to be done as the seventh Simon had suggested, and very soon the third Simon's ship was loaded, and he, with the fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh Simons, went on board and set sail, whilst the first and the second Simons remained with the emperor, who was so excited that he could talk of nothing but the princess, and of whether the 5 Simons would succeed in bringing her away, and of what he would do the 2 remaining Simons if she did not speedily arrive. Meanwhile, the little ship was speeding over the 7 times 7 seas faster than any wind that blows, and in a week arrived at the island of Busan. The coast of the island bristled with armed warriors, thick as pins in a pincushion, and a watchman from a high tower called out, Halt and anchor! Who are you? Whence come you? Why are you here? And the seventh Simon answered from the ship, We are subjects of the good and great emperor. We come in peace and trade our wares, rich stuffs, brocades, and velvets, shimmering silks, costly jewels, and exquisite apparel such as ladies love. The watchman went to report to the king. The king said, Let them be off with them. The king said, Let them be off with them. Have we not all these things ourselves, that we must need traffic with strangers? But the princess was curious and coaxed the king. Dear papa, let them land and show their wares. It will amuse me, and sometimes it is just a little dull for me here on this small island. Well, if it will amuse you, said the king, so be it. So the Simons brought some of their wares ashore and displayed them before the princess, who sat on a rose-red throne, attended by her old nurse and her young maidens. Such beautiful wares had never been seen on the island. Even the princess was dazzled by their magnificence, and the nurse and the maidens drew in their breath in joyous amazement. And the seventh Simon said to the princess, Fairest of all fair ladies, these goods that we display are mere trifles. Will it please you to accept them for your maidens? The rarer and more precious goods we have left in the ship, and if you will honor our poor ship with a visit, we can show you such beautiful stuffs, such rare jewels and shimmering garments as are worthy even of your own possessing. The princess ran to her father. Papa, the goods that the merchants have brought ashore are beautiful indeed, but they say that the goods they have aboard are finer still. Let me go to the ship, and that I may see and choose out what I fancy. No, the king wouldn't let her go, but she coaxed so prettily with him. Please, oh please, dear papa, and kissed him and laughed and pouting. And kissing him and laughing and pouting, that at last he said, Oh, very well, and he ordered out his royal yacht with 100 bowmen, 100 knights, and 1,000 foot soldiers to escort the princess to the merchant's ship. But oh, what a little ship it was! The princess laughed to see it. There is no room aboard for any of my followers, said she. My nurse and I alone will go aboard. So the seventh Simon put out a crystal plank, and the princess stepped over it into the little ship, followed only by her nurse. And the seventh Simon led her down into the cabins and spread out his most precious wares. And indeed, they were very beautiful, and the princess chose out that, and couldn't decide what she would take and what to leave. And while she looked and pondered and laughed at her own indecision, the fourth Simon took the prow of the ship in his right hand and sank the ship to the very bottom of the sea. There it was now, racing along the seabed on its way home. And on the royal yacht, the 100 bowmen and the 100 knights and the 1,000 foot soldiers were all struck dumb with terror. What could they do? Nothing but go back to the king and tell him that the foreign merchant's ship had sunk into the sea with the princess with it. How the king stormed, how the king wept. "Oh, my daughter, my princess, my beautiful one, I am punished for my pride. Did I refuse all those who sought your hand, only to lose you to the depths of the sea? And you miserable traitors, who watched this happen, and stirred no finger to prevent it, away with you, out of my sight. A felon's death is too good for you, but you shall die, every mother's son of you, when I have devised the best means of making your deaths horrible." So the 100 bowmen and the 100 knights and the 1,000 foot soldiers were all marched off to prison. And farther away sped the third Simon's little ship on its way home, under the water. So when this little ship was well out of sight of the island, the fourth Simon laid hold of the prow with his left hand, and the little ship rose to surface again. Then the princess looked up from the jewels she was choosing and said, "Nurse, we have dallied long enough. I fear my father will be vexed." And she ran up on deck. Oh heavens, what did she see? No harbor, no island, only the wide waves of ocean, and the little ship skimming over them faster than any wind blows. But the princess didn't waste time lamenting. She was not clever for nothing. She immediately turned herself into a swan and flew off towards the island of Busan. But the fifth Simon seized up his crossbow and shot the swan through the wing, and as it came fluttering down, the sixth Simon caught it. The swan turned itself into a silver fish, slipped from its hand, and gave a leap towards the sea. But the sixth Simon caught it before it touched the water. Then the fish turned itself into a black mouse, and darted along the deck towards a tiny hole. But the sixth Simon had it before it could reach the hole, and as he grasped it, lo, it was no mouse, but the beautiful princess, whom he grasped by her golden hair. The princess turned to her nurse and said, "I do not know who these men may be, but they are too clever for us." And the seventh Simon said, "We are servants of the great emperor, who claims to be the handsomest and cleverest man on earth, and we bring you to our master as a royal bride." "Well then," said the princess, "I must make the best of it." But in her heart she rejoiced. Did that lovely princess, for she was weary, poor girl, for being kept on an island like a priceless jewel in a locked casket that no one must touch. So the little ship comes into the harbor of the emperor's capital. The crystal plank is put out, and the princess steps lightly over it and comes ashore. The emperor, the first and the second Simon, and the great retinue of lords and ladies are waiting to receive her. The emperor is ravished at the sight of her. She does indeed shine like the sun, thinks he, and the stars of heaven sparkle in her eyes. He stepped forward to greet her with an elegant speech. "Princess of most rare beauty and rich wit, whose fame resounding throughout all the world smote my heart with irrepressible longings. It is not in my poor heart to keep you here against your will. Say but a word, and the little ship shall take you home again. But if you will consent to stay here, you shall be empress of my kingdom and of my heart." And the princess answered, "I will stay. What more? What more need be? What more needed to be told? The emperor's joy was unbounded. The Simons were sent back to the island of Busan with a letter inviting the king to his daughter's wedding. The ship arrived just as the 100 bowmen and the 100 knights and the 1,000 foot soldiers were being led out to execution. The king read the letter and pardoned all the prisoners, but he sulked and refused the invitation to the wedding. Nevertheless, the wedding was a joyous affair. At the wedding feast, the 7 Simons were treated like princes, and then the feast was over. The empress drew them apart. "My brave fellows," he said, "how can I ever thank you? Go to my treasury, fill your pockets, your hats, nay, your very boots with gold, with silver, with jewels. Take, if you will, all of my treasury. Take all that my treasury contains. And as for yourselves, I will confer nobility upon you, and you shall be governors over 7 cities." But the 7 Simons remembered their field of golden maize, and the first Simon said, "We are only your humble laborers, my emperor. We should cut but sorry figures as nobles and governors. Nor do we desire gold or silver or jewels. All we ask is that we be allowed to go back to our farm and till the earth as our father taught us. Remember that it is out of the earth that all wealth springs." So the 7 Simons went back to their farm and lived in peace and contentment. And the emperor was so happy with his beautiful bride that whenever he was the handsomest and cleverest man on earth, or whether he wasn't, well, it didn't seem to matter to him anymore. In the next one, we'll read The Prince and the Goose Girl by Eleanor Mordaunt. But this has been The 7 Simons by Ruth Manning-Ssnders. And this has been a reading from the Provensen Book of Fairy Tales with art by Alice and Martin Provensen. And that being said, if you like this content, make sure you like and subscribe and ring the bell so you know when I upload. Also, if you want to support me in any way, ring the bell. Support me in any way. All that information will be in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching, everyone, and have a great day.